Hello, hello, happy Sunday. Here we are, Logik Live 109. We've made it so far, and there's already so many people in the chat. Look at this. Hello, Alexander. Hello, Sinan, a household name. You were just here last week. Here you are again. Justiniano, hello. BJH, David Kreitz, Michael Landon, Sal Wilson. Sal Wilson's in the chat. I know that guy. I work with that guy. Sean Sams. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. We have a fantastic Austin Campbell, another name I'm very familiar with. Hello, hello, hello. Hope everyone's having a wonderful Sunday. Just did a run through with our special guest today, and it's going to be a wonderful show. Oh, man. Hope you all are ready. This song, I never know when the song ends because it's just that kind of song. I bet it's coming up soon. Whoa. There's a transition. That was for Randy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Logik Live number 109. Hope you're having a wonderful day. We have a great show ahead of us. My special guest is Andy Milkis himself. But before we get over to that, let's talk about some messages from our sponsors and some upcoming events. So, I gotta just find my mouse, and there it is. This episode of Logik Live is brought to you by AJA, together with Flame since 2006. Hot Spring is the future of VFX outsourcing, connecting you to other artists from around the world to help you get your projects done. You can find them at thehotspring.com. We have a new code from Boris. We've made it to 2023. If you need Boris FX plugins, you can save 15% on any Boris FX product, standalone or subscription, with the code Logic-2023 at checkout. If you're going to be buying Boris FX plugins, might as well save 15%. We have our new exciting slide of the month right here. It is NAB Logik After Dark. NAB is right around the corner, and I'm sure a number of you are excited for that. If you will be in attendance, and I'm excited to announce that I will be in attendance, you'll be happy to know that Logik is hosting a little event after the show on Monday, April 17th, and Tuesday, April 18th. Andy?
Is this on? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
the levels are
hello.
great.
We can't see you yet.
Levels are great.
All right.
Oh, that's all right. I'm the voice that lives for free in my head anyway. Yes, I definitely wanted to just jump in and say a few things about the Logik After Dark event. First of all, it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a suite at the Mirage Hotel, and we're going to do. There'll be some drinks. There'll be some food. We're going to do some flame demos because that's why we're there. But it'll be a great way and a great place to connect with your fellow flame artists. Hang out, have some fun, recap about all the stuff you saw at the show, and I hope you can all make it. If you think you can make it to NAB, please register. If you can't make it to NAB, please do not register. The space is limited, and I want to make sure that everybody who's out there is going to be able to come and hang out. And we're going to try to organize some things during the day too, especially maybe we'll go walk the show floor and things like that. So I'm going to return the show back to Jeff. Thank you for letting me jump in. And hopefully we'll see you all at NAB.
Sounds like a great time. Looking forward to that. Thanks, Andy. Back on track, we have a merch store with a smattering of hoodies, shirts, mugs, stickers, and more. And we've added a few new exciting items now of Logik notebooks, AirPod cases, iPhone and Android phone cases. You can find the merch store on the Logik TV website after you click the merch button at the top of the page. Thank you to all the patrons who are subscribed on Patreon. Your support is what allows this right here to take place and what allows the Logik community to thrive and to grow. And we are up to 156 patrons as of this week. It just keeps growing. Thank you to each and every one of you. If you want to support what we're doing here on Logik, the added bonus being that you get access to some exclusive content such as the post-show Q&A where we, for instance, head over to Zoom to chat some more with Andy after this show and learn just more about how he made the magic happen with that baby. Or you can get a chance to ask him a question or two one-on-one. Head on over to patreon.com/LogikTV and support for as little as $5 a month. Don't forget about the Logik Forum because it is the go-to place to ask questions, have conversations, learn more about what others in the community have to say. Year-to-date forum stats for 2023 are looking pretty good. We're clocking in at 1,313 users, which is 10 more than last show. 593,000 page views, 113,000 more than last time. 2,900 posts, 400 more than last time. And finally, 627 Discord users, 4 more than last time. We're growing. Speaking of Discord, if you're not there already, think about stopping by. That's where you'll find your day-to-day flame chats, questions, comments, concerns. It's a little more conversational than the forums, and it's a great way to get a sanity check on a keyboard shortcut or a quick confirmation about a workflow. Check the Discord link at forum.logic.tv and come on over. Another week, another challenge coin shipment. If you're the proud new owner of a challenge coin, it's always fun to share a picture of your proud new desk ornament and conversation starter. They're large, they're in charge, and they're pretty awesome. And while we're talking about things that are awesome, how about Glenn Teal? Flame artist Glenn Teal has been helping the world of Logic by producing the Logic podcasts. He's been doing an amazing job getting those underway with Amanda Elliott, and we are releasing new episodes all the time. If anyone has any suggestions for podcast topics or interview subjects, shoot a message over to Glenn on the forum, username Glenn Teal. Reach out if you have any ideas on someone to interview, and there's a solid chance Glenn will make it happen. Speaking of make it happen, new tutorials have certainly happened over at Logic Academy. It's not winter anymore, but we had a few solid tutorials this past winter 2023, starting off with particles with Sinan Viral, who is in the chat. Hello. Flames Particle System, Part 2. You might remember Sinan from last episode here on Logic. He's an incredible flame artist, and this one is one incredible tutorial, that's for sure. Sinan does an amazing job showing what you can do with Flame's particle system and expands upon some of the ideas from the first particle video, giving you a bunch of cool options on how to use particles in Flame. New tutorial number 2 is by Graziella Gandolfi, covering Intro to Matchbox Shaders. She walks us through step by step exactly how she writes a simple Matchbox shader and talks you through a few of the complicated theoretical ideas so you can understand what's going on and why. Does an excellent job and gives you the chance to demystify the ever mystical world of Matchbox shaders, which I think is great. These 2 videos join the rest of the series: Connect Conform, Image Node, Intro to NDI, 8-minute Aces, Beauty Techniques in Flame, Setting up PyBox, Machine Learning Time Warp, My First Linux Flame, The Logic Portal, Flame's Particle System Part 1. Ooh, there's a lot. If any of these sound cool, check them out because they all are available for free on the Logic YouTube channel. Big shout out and thank you to Autodesk for sponsoring these videos. And of course, Flame 2023 has become available for download a few months back, so don't forget to upgrade if your schedule allows you to do so. That is it for my presentation here. We're back to this. Hello, we're back. My guest today is someone who needs no introduction. He is the face of Logic TV. He started it all in his guest room back in 2020, and here we are in episode 109. He's a busy man, but he's not too busy to come on down and give us an old-fashioned demo. So here he is, Andy Milkis. Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was enjoying that so much, Jeff, that I got distracted. Congratulations, by the way. You have absolutely come into your own as the Logic Live, as one of the Logic Live hosts. I mean, the puns are on point. The delivery is great. The levels sound good. And it's really amazing to see the roles shift. We've got Sinan in the chat here letting me know that I'm muted, which is great. I mean, Randy couldn't be here today. But it's good to know that, that's being carried on as well. So, yeah, man, great to be here.
Good mentor for, 100 episodes or so.
Start. No, it's really great. It's great being here. And it's really wild to be on the other side, if nothing else, to be on the other side of the app that we use for the shows. So now actually I have the guest experience, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's different. I have the command center in front of me with 900 windows. I think you have a few less windows than 900, but it's still, a few things to keep track of. But hope you're doing okay on this nice Sunday. It's beautiful out today.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely. I hope wherever you all are out there in Logic Land that the weather is lovely as well.
Oh, and George in the chat says we're passing the torch of flame a little bit. We're passing it around back and forth.
I guess passing the flame would be more on brand,
Yeah, he did. He did say that.
Perfect. Well, thank you for having me today. Thank you for letting me jump in and talk about the Logic After Dark. I just want to let Fred know. I see Fred's in the chat. I am going to show off something Python related at Logic After Dark. I've dusted off the keyboard and blew out the cobwebs of the part of my brain where Python had been sitting comfortably for the last couple of years, and I'm getting back into it. So, very exciting stuff.
That's great. You are kind of the face. If Sinan is the face of particles, you have been the face of Python for a little while, at least the forward-facing one. I know that there are some other Python gurus out there who really are incredible, but
who absolutely deserve the flame or the torch. Yeah. I'm just the most enthusiastic. I'm not the best. I'm just the most enthusiastic, which has kind of been like a banner, like headline for my career as well. So
And on that note, why don't you show off
on
some
that
exciting?
self-deprecating note,
So today you're
right?
here to
Oh,
show two spots that you not only worked on. This is the important part. Normally, people do demos. They're showing what they've worked on. This is something you've not only worked on but also directed the spot, which is a little bit different
yeah.
than normal, I think, which is very cool.
Yeah. This was a great challenge. So this is back about 7 years ago. I directed these two spots, or had the opportunity to direct these two spots for CVS pharmacies, and the brief that came through just caught my eye immediately because one spot called for a singing dog, and the other one called for a flying baby. And I was like remembering, like on the first day of directing class at NYU Film School, they told us specifically, do not work with children or animals because it's difficult. They're all unpredictable. So I was like, great. When the opportunity came up to work with both at the same time, I was like, why not? You know, I love chaos, so let's do this. But it was really an amazing opportunity, and I showed this back at a New York user group meeting a few years ago. So I definitely wanted to show it again, because even though like you may not in the course of your everyday come across like the ask to make an animal sing or a baby fly, kind of one of the things that's been universal in the spirit of all of these Logic Live demos is there's always something to learn or take away from anything that anybody has to show. And so I'm hopeful that there'll be a few things in here that people will find interesting and that they can bring into their own work.
Good point, good goal, and I think you're absolutely right. There's something for everyone. I always get a bunch of stuff from these demos, so I just love the opportunity to be on this side of them.
Amen. All right. Why don't we start with the singing dog? I want to apologize in advance because this is a singing dog and it's a very catchy tune, and we're going to hear it a lot in the next few minutes. And so it's you're going to find yourself walking around the house, or maybe if you hear like if you're pushing a shopping cart in the supermarket and the wheel is squeaking, it'll remind you of this. You'll be singing it. You'll think of us here at Logic. So,
And just
oh,
before
perfect. Thank you, Sean.
yeah, great, perfect timing. Sean Sams is working on some R&D for talking
Ah, I
animals,
love this.
so before you know it, here we go. I'm gonna cue the video now. We have a talking dog. Here we go.
Shop CVS Express in the wrap. Yap, yap. Get your order in a snap. Yap, yap. You can stay in the car with your friend, cause you don't have to go in. Pull up to the curb and wag, and they'll bring out your bag. Try curbside pickup with CVS Express. Shop CVS Express in the wrap. Yap, yap, yap. Woof, woof.
Yes, let's hear it for Goldie. Goldie the
There
golden
they go.
retriever.
Goldie the golden retriever. The crowd's going
Right?
wild. I would love to have been there for the audio session on that one because that was a good voice actor.
It was actually like the copywriter from the ad agency who did the demo track that we cut to, and it was just perfect. Like, where do you go? You can't improve perfect, you know.
Yeah.
All right, so let me share the flame screen, and I'll take you through what I did. I guess the first thing to really I just kind of know is that there are two ways to approach a talking animal. The first is you can do CG, or the second is you can do it all in 2D. And we obviously went the with the 2D route here by doing this all in flame. So when I approach this, I had done some talking animal stuff before, like in the course of my career, and I found that like the important thing to find is a balance. You want to try to get as much in camera out of the animal as you can, because there's really only so much you can do in 2D before it looks like you've done something in 2D. Like it looks like you've extended bicubic this thing to death. And so we had a screen test for the dog. This is actually part of what we shot, but we had a screen test for the dog. And what we learned in the audition for the dog was that the dog trainer could control things like the dog's eye line. I knew that's something I couldn't change very easily, was the dog's eye line. And she could make the dog bark on command and kind of follow something. The dog is clearly looking at like a piece of food, like some reward for whatever it's going to do. And So the handler could do that, could control eye line, could kind of get the dog to get excited about getting the treat, and then to kind of bark on command. And so what I was looking for in the course of this was, okay, when the dog I needed phonetic shapes from this dog. I needed mouth positions that could be convincing vowel sounds, E and O and ah, and things like when the lips come together to make an M or an S. I had the script, so I knew I needed it to say Shop CVS Express, which is a lot of like S's and a lot of shots, or a lot of phonetic shapes where like the teeth come together. So I looked at the footage that we shot, and I was sitting like right behind the camera when we were filming this. So I was certainly staring at the monitor, looking for things that I could use, like looking for bits and pieces. And I think it's in this clip here where you can see. So the dog would bark, and then after the dog would bark, I noticed that it would almost like clear its palate, like it would do that, you know? And so I was looking and I was saying, there's something there. Or after it would, after it would eat, it would also do the same thing. So our editor on this, who was absolutely phenomenal, kind of looked at all the takes and found also that after the dog would bark, sometimes it would just like open and close its mouth, like it would go like "Roo, roo, 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 roo," like it was nervous or concerned about something. And we went back and forth looking at the footage and found this. I'm going to dive into my batch setup for this. Before I get too deep into the batch, this is a 7-year-old batch setup. So there are some things you're going to see in this batch setup. I don't want to cause anyone these are like trigger warnings. I don't want to cause anyone any undue alarm. This is before we started using GMAS Tracer. So you'll see old GMAS nodes in here. I'm not advocating for the old GMAS node. I don't want to resurrect that old battle. I'm just surprised that it's still, when I opened this up, it was not as disorganized as I remembered. It was better than I remembered. So we found, the editor found this little clip of the dog that when she laid it against the voiceover track had promise, right? It was this.
Shop CVS Express in the rap rap.
And so there's no visual effects there. I mean, you see like a little bee here. It's just because I stabilized it, right? So that's the dog barking and then just kind of being concerned the way that dogs are, right? So I then went and found, as I looked at this footage, I found like a 15 frame loop of the dog opening and closing his mouth. And so I took that 15 frame loop and kind of rocked it back and forth and time warped it a little bit and played around with it. And I ended up getting something like this. Right? So again, if we just look at the dog, because everything is bouncing around, there's something there. It's never going to work right out of the gate, but at least there's like actual mouth and head and jowl movements. Like one thing you find whenever you try to animate anything on a dog is everything's connected. There's musculature and there's fur and it all flows, and you don't want to have to fake any of that if you don't have to. So I did a couple more little edits, and then I found a sequence that I thought was a good base to kind of build on top of, right? And then I took that and I took the edit that I had with all those time warps forwards and backwards and just built one time warp node with a bunch of keyframes to kind of get that as one clip and then stabilized it. And this was the base, the foundation for my shot. Okay. I then went ahead. I'm going to skip ahead a bit here because I think I had about 3 weeks to do the spot, and I did about maybe a week's worth of R&D on this one shot. I started with the camera files before we did any grading. Excuse me. So the first thing that I did was I started to like break apart. I took my 15 frame loop and I rotoed like the top snout, and then I rotoed the bottom snout, or the bottom jaw, excuse me, top jaw and the bottom jaw, and then went into an action node here and started to animate them, right? And I will show you that in a second, but I just want to start out with, I started animating them kind of like the way you would a puppet, where the bottom jaw would animate for every syllable. And I wasn't happy with it. I tried it 21 times and I wasn't happy with it. Like there was something about it that just didn't look right. And so I decided, and I'm so glad that Randy's not here to see this because I'm sure he would have 1 or 7 things to say. But I decided to like film myself saying the line. I remember watching some documentary about animators at Disney, how they would film themselves sometimes and to kind of see what their expressions were. And so this is a much younger version of me. I was wearing different glasses. A lot of problems with this, but anyway, I noticed as I was analyzing this little shot of myself here that there's a disconnect. Like when you talk, your jaw opens sometimes, but your lips do different things. So I noticed that my bottom jaw here opened up with like shop, C, and then for V and S, my jaw stayed still, but the lips moved. And so I went and put that shot of myself next to the dog and re-time warped this pre-built little clip here so that it lined up with me, right? So that the bottom jaw opened and closed the same as mine. You can see here's like CVS, and I knew I was going to have to animate like the lips and the teeth and everything, but at least I had the jaw movement correct. And that like changed everything. I'm going to try to never look at that image of myself again. That changed absolutely everything. I rendered that out, and that became the new foundation for my my work. Okay, so now that I had like the jaw moving correctly, I then went ahead and started to embellish, and I knew this was another thing. Jeff has this great moniker of like, what is it? Work smarter, not harder, right?
Yep, that's the one.
I took this 15 frame loop of myself of the jaw that would move up and down, and I just rotoed that for 15 frames. And then of course I rotoed the bottom one for 15 frames. And I linked the output of that to the time warp that I used to retime the dog's face to match mine. So all that really meant was that I didn't need to animate or roto any more than 15 frames of this dog. So all of this is just a time warp of those 15 frames. Work smarter, not harder.
And by the way, we have 2 viewers in the chat who are agreeing that this is a very smart move to have done it that way. So, Andy,
are either or both
years
of them
ago,
Randy McEntee?
No. We have Sean Cochran who's praising you, and George.
Thank you, Sean. No, that's good. That's praise that I respect. Thank you very much. Yeah, Andy from 7 years ago was great. The guy we have now has a lot of sound effects and a neon sign in his guest room. But this guy was at his prime. Okay, so I took the jaw, or the whole shot, and stabilized it because I knew I was going to have to put this like animated snout on top of the plate that we actually shot. And then that's what we have here. I'm just going to hide some of this for sake of showing you. So we'll start out with this. The first thing that I did, I animated the lower jaw, and you'll see it starts to. Well, let me just hide the grid. You'll see it looks odd because you can see what's underneath it, but I knew I would fix that later. So I just animated the lower jaw to kind of so that the mouth would open more on those phonetic shapes. And that's just, I believe, just an extended by cubic animation, right? Yeah, it's just animated extended by cubic, right? And then I did the same thing with the top jaw. I wanted the snout to puff out, like, on the P and shop. So you can see it puffing out right there. And this was a process. This I animated a lot. You can see that like the iteration number for this is 45 by the time we actually like finalized the shot. So this wasn't like a first attempt and I got it right. But I kept animating the snout and everything to get something that I liked. Is it here? I think so. And then what I ended up doing after that was I took another layer of the dog, put it behind the nose and the jaw that I had animated. And that was there. And then I extended by cubic like the heck out of it. I was just trying to push the things that you can still see. Like here's his actual bottom jaw. I was trying to like push them out of the way, So this way, if I were to hide the jaw and the snout, you'll see what's going on here is something extremely, like looks like some kind of weird like Instagram filter. for the dog. But all I was really doing was pushing it out of the way so you didn't see the doubling up, while still maintaining the actual plate of the dog, so that I didn't have to worry about stitching fur together that was never going to line up, like that kind of stuff. So I got that as far as it could go. And then, like, for me, like, the fun part began. I looked at the footage here and I found like a frame of the dog's teeth. I wanted to grab those. I even put a little shading on it so that way the teeth would get dark, like behind a lip. And I also grabbed a frame of his tongue because I knew I was going to need that. But I went through and started adding the top teeth. Let's see here. And the bottom teeth. Right. So for moments like this, I guess the top teeth is really more. When I wanted him to go like S for CVS, S, so you make that sound by putting your teeth together. So I felt like, the dog didn't show his teeth. So I wanted both sets of teeth to be there. The top teeth are just the bottom teeth flipping around. Right? So I did that for CVS. Wanted his mouth to kind of close a bit more. And then the tongue, one of the last words in this segment is there. This is shop CVS Express in their app. And so I needed to see the tongue there, right? So that's just his tongue animated with a little extended bicubic action. And finally, after I had the mouth the way I wanted it, I felt like, he is kind of looking up. And as a result, like his jowl is kind of, and it may be a her, Goldie's jowl, I don't know, is falling down. So I did a little extended bicubic animation here to kind of pick the mouth back up and also just animate it. There were a couple of keyframes. It was tracked, like I tracked the vertices or the UV points, but then I wanted to animate some frames here just to make the dog feel a bit more expressive, and not so much like the face was sagging like that. And then finally, this was an important part here. I went through like frame by frame for certain frames here and painted some hair over top of the teeth that I added, just so that they would sit back in his mouth a bit cleaner.
I think that adds a whole lot. It's subtle and it's
totally
slight, but it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. It was like these little details like that. Oh, I guess there were some seams that I also painted over. Now that I'm 7 years later, I'm stepping through this frame by frame live on YouTube. I can see some of the choices that I made. And then let's see, there was, after the dog barked, I think, because he's a dog, he definitely, there was an explosion of spit and hair. I just got to find it. Hold on. There it is. They came shooting out. So that all had to be cleaned up because naturally, and that required some patching the still frames of the car in there. We also had to replace the car. We needed to get rid of the trailer. A little bit of the trailer was seen. And I think there were other things that were visible, like reflections and the like. So we ended up taking the performance of the dog and the window and just kind of putting that on top of a cleaned up background. Did the a blow up of 1% or whatever it was, and then the dog had some spit here in its jowls, so we painted that out. But at the end, when all is said and done, you do have
Shop CVS Express in the rap rap.
Right?
Shop CVS Express in the rap rap.
That's
It's
a singing
cute.
dog.
It works. That's a singing dog. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh, I like being on the receiving end of that applause. It's good.
Yeah, the crowd loved it, and Brooks did have a quick question that I think is not a very hard one, but it is. Do you remember if the client had you make small or significant changes to the talking? I would think probably no, because the lines were already kind of set, weren't they?
Yeah, we needed. There were no changes to the copy. The only feedback the client had, and it was extremely helpful, was just trying to get more realistic movements. That was also part of that big change you saw when I looked. I did the side by side with myself. I felt like it just wasn't hitting the mark. There was some, it could be better. So,
And I think
but no big
sometimes
changes like that.
that's good. In my perspective, sometimes you need that kind of feedback sometimes, because sometimes I think you're a little too close to it. Like you want to believe that it's done, even though it might not be, and so you'll convince yourself. But the other
Yeah,
opinion is good.
that's 100% right. That's 100. And this is what, it's like 61 frames. You look at 61 frames for like 2 weeks, and you don't have the ability to see it objectively anymore.
Yeah.
And I think it's also really important as a flame artist to be able to listen to that feedback and just be prepared to throw it out and start over. And that's ultimately what I ended up doing. I'm just glad that I had that 7-year-old Andy from 7 years ago had the foresight to kind of build in a little bit of flexibility with the roto and things like that, so I wasn't starting over from scratch in that regard on every single like every time there was a change.
Yeah. Sean is noting that it was very bold of you as the director / I guess as a director and the person doing the work, it would also be the VFX supervisor. Bold of you to do this shot while the car is moving and not decide to do it when it's locked off. But I think someone else noted that you get the reflections for free and it's a little bit more realistic potentially. Is that the idea, or was there more to it?
It was that. It was like sometimes you do this. Sean's right. As the flame artist, who's also the director and the visual effects supervisor, you're now 3 steps removed from being able to blame anybody. Like, you can't blame anybody for any of these things. So there was definitely like some give and take going on in the calculus in my mind of like, I know there's going to be problems. What's going to be the bigger problem, or what can I fake or whatever. So I was reasonably satisfied with the when we did some camera tests with the stability of the camera. We shot with a Movi, I think it was. It was a stabilized gimbal that was on mounted on the side of the production trailer there. I do have a couple of pictures that I can show you. But as far as Sean was saying, Sean's comment there, that was the calculus. Was just like I was satisfied enough with the stability of the shot, or at least the pieces. When we went around the block, we just had like 2 blocks that we had a permit to shoot on, and we went around just continuously until we got what I thought was enough. Here's our. I don't know if you have the flame screen up, but here's the stand-in for our dog. In typical production fashion, we kept the tags on there, so I'm sure this was returned after the shoot. I have no proof of that one way or another, but I certainly didn't request this as a tracking mark. But yeah, we had the stylish and economical Honda Accord mounted or on this production trailer, and then everything was kind of bolted to that. And we were sitting on the truck that was pulling this trailer. There's one other thing I'd like to show from the spot. I looked to see if I can, if I could find this material from the archives, but after 7 years, I did want to call it a couple of things that, as the combination flame artist, visual effects supervisor, director, I was able to kind of take care of quickly. So we had this shot boarded where the car goes driving through this intersection, and we can see the dog in the passenger seat, right? So we did 3 takes, and every take, the owner or the trainer was sitting in the back seat here and would hold the dog up, get the dog in a seated position, and then the car would start moving and the dog would lay down. And so we did 3 takes and the dog kept laying down. And so finally, after the 3rd take, we had a steady cam at this point, or that Movi. So I just had the driver pull the car right here in the middle of the street, and had the Steadicam operator go up to the dog. The dog was looking forward, and then had the Steadicam operator just kind of rotate the camera around 30 or 45 degrees, almost like on an arc, knowing that, okay, I could take that, I could stabilize that, I could roto that, and then I could just put the dog's head in the car, and we can move on, and we don't have to try yet another take to see if the dog will sit up. So it was things like that came up. Another thing that came up was this shot here. It was late in the day. Like, you can see the shadows on the sign. We were losing the light already, and everyone was getting a little concerned about time. And we really wanted the dog to be wagging its tail here as the car was driving in. It wasn't until we got there that we realized that the dog, like for safety, for very important safety reasons, has to be harnessed in the car and can't really sit here with its tail wagging. So, and in fact, so what we ended up doing was the next day when we were shooting the flying baby off on the other side of this CVS parking lot, we set up another green screen and then had the dog come back. You know, we paid the dog for another half a day or whatever the minimum was. The dog, no one says this outside of production, but it's what we say every day. We brought the dog in and then set the camera up so it was pretty much at the same height and angle as the shot of the car. It was forgiving, but you know, and then had the dog, the trainer face the dog away from camera and have get them to wag the tail. And so that's ultimately what you see here. And if I zoom in and you look really, really closely, you can either, you can divine what it is that you're seeing. Either this is like a headless dog, because where would it be, you know? But it didn't matter. It sold the shot. And then just because I was the director and the visual effects supervisor and the lead flame artist, I made sure there was a little reflection of the dog's tail in the strip of chrome there that is almost visible if you blow up the shot 562%. But I think the flame artists out there, oh no, I guess you can see it when it's wide. But so just a couple little Easter eggs there, and there's me and my producer with Goldie,
it's a little
who was a champ. Yeah, Goldie was a champ. I mean, my producer was a champ too, but the Goldie was the real star of the day.
That's great.
But that's it for the singing dog. Unless anybody has any other questions.
No, just nothing but compliments on making the right decisions, and 7 years ago, Andy doing all the right things.
I'm looking here, and I like Tim's comment of 7 years ago it was harder to fake that stuff. You're absolutely right. But when you've been faking it as long as I have, Tim, nothing can stop you. Should we move on to the flying baby? He says as though that's just a normal thing that people say.
Next on the list is the flying baby. How would you like to intro that clip there? Now that we're on a late night talk show and I'm showing the next clip.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeff. Yes. The big ask for this one was they wanted a baby to be in a car seat and have it fly around through the neighborhood and then arrive at the CVS location. So the real key thing here, on top of finding a baby or a kid that could perform and give a good performance, was making sure that we had a rig built that could safely achieve what we needed to in camera. So, wanted to go ahead and roll the clip, and we'll take it from there.
Flying baby.
Need diapers? Just pull up. Try curbside pickup. Shop CVS Express in our app.
How cute is that kid, by the way?
Very cute.
Huh?
I love the Jetsons sound effect. That's my favorite part. The little the sound.
It was one of those things where, if I remember correctly, in the rough cut, it became like, well, what should we put in there? Well, we'll just put in the Jetsons car as like a placeholder.
Yeah.
Good. And whether it was demo
right.
love or if it was meant to be, it worked.
Yeah, it's a great spot.
So like I said, the key to this from a technical perspective was all about the rig for the car seat. So if you can bring back the flame,
Here we go.
I will show you. I had worked on a whole campaign of spots for another, as a VFX supervisor for another client, another brand, and met this amazing art department prop master, this guy here. And so when we got this opportunity, I called him to see if he would be interested. And thank goodness he said yes. I told him that I needed to have a baby fly. And, I showed him the storyboards and said it was important for me to have the car seat mounted at the end of a long steel pole. So that way the car seat could have some natural bounce, like none of this was in CG. So I had to kind of think about what can I do in 2D. I can play with scale, I can play with X and Y position, and I can do Z rotation. But as everybody out there knows, you can try to fake perspective. You get more than like 10% off axis, and it's the trick is up, like it totally gives it away. So he built me this rig that had like a 8-foot pole, I think, off the cart. The cart was heavily weighted. You can see the weights back there. And the seat was far enough away that the seat would bounce kind of on its own, or we'd have a crew member bounce the seat a little bit. And then there was this pulley system in the back that would rotate the chair on the Y axis, left and right. It was absolutely amazing because we kind of flew around this neighborhood. So this was our green screen rig. We had a camera on a dolly so I could get some perspective as we zoomed in. This kid was so cute, right? We bonded. There you go. See, this is the you can't give me 5 trick. It worked with my kids. It works with kids everywhere. And you can see the prop guy in the back there, like bouncing the chair. It was great. We had a little fan going to get her hair blowing. I'm so glad we put her hair up, even though it meant that there was fine hair going off the green screen. That's a problem we can solve, And then, here we go. So he could turn this thing. When we shot the back plates of the neighborhood, we picked a neighborhood that had turns because in the boards, I had, it was more of an extended driving sequence, I guess you could call it, where the chair would go around a corner. So if it went around a corner, I wanted to make sure I could turn. I even had her signal, like she was going to turn left and turn right. Ultimately, you know how it goes in the edit room. There was no time in the cut for a turn. So even though we had this whole rig built for it, and I loved it, we ended up not using it. But it was great. So we got basically everything we needed. We got her laughing. We got her looking. If I remember, there were snacks involved, all kinds of stuff. So let me take you through the shot, this one shot of the flying baby, or pull up as we called it, because, she's pulling up to the CVS to pick up diapers. So that's what we call in the professional ad business, a double entendre. So let me show you here. I started this work on the camera files. So you'll see there's a separate path here to cut the mat, but it's all the same footage. So we picked this shot of her. I liked the movement here of the chair and her body, but we wanted her to be looking around. We wanted her to be looking around. So we decided to Frankenstein these 2 plates together, which is something that you always do as a flame artist. So we just needed to do a head replacement. And fortunately, her shoulders and these like straps here for the shoulder restraints were the perfect place to hide the key, or to mat her in. So stabilized I stabilized the head plate here. Let's get better, I guess, if I zoom out, stabilize this, and then tracked the chair and put the 2 together, and voila, you have a head replacement on a kid. And then again, because I had done work on the and used the master keyer for a desaturate. How's that for good green screen, right? It's good to be the flame artist, visual effects supervisor, director. You get what you need sometimes. There's no one to tell you that there's no time to get that, to shoot the HDR pass. Got a little 3D keyer here, which is my own personal favorite keyer. And then cleaned up the mat with some roto. Right, got rid of the rig off the mat, and then added the little strap down at the bottom. And this was 7 years ago, working at 3.2K, so you had to pre-render everything. Everybody who's my age will remember those days. But I pre-rendered like a suppress pass and a mat. So that became my element for the comp. This was part of our background plate. We had that gimbal stabilized camera, like a foot off the ground as we drove through this neighborhood. We shot everything at, it was either 48 or 72. I don't remember, but just in case we needed the frames, we had it. And I then went in, and for maybe one of the 4 times in my illustrious career, I used a Trails time warp mode to create this kind of Z-depth, this kind of motion blur look that was going on. It was all that it really needed. Okay. and then got to work. So, let me just hide this.
That one's my tip for the day. I think I didn't know that could be used in that way. I guess I didn't really know what it was for. Trails.
The trails? Yeah. Back in the day, again, I know there's a section of our audience who will remember before the motion time warp, it was just a mix or trails and paint and hope and prayer, and especially when things had to go from 24 to 30 or vice versa. So I took the shot of the kid here, and you can see there's only a couple of keyframes, and all I'm really doing is XYZ animation and a Z rotation, just to get a little bit of like floating over the ground. You know, I always wanted that. I was imagining too, like when you see like race car footage, here it's just slowing down and then speeds up a little bit and gets close to the camera, right? And then to add to this, I wanted to make a contact shadow, and I'll show you my absolute favorite way to make a contact shadow, because I mean sometimes you can get away with like a G mask, but I find that those never look accurate enough or realistic enough. So I went into action here and I brought in two shapes. This is a plane and a capsule. These are just like the stock objects that come with action. You go to your output module here in action and turn on ambient occlusion, and then take the capsule here and just move it closer to the floor plane. And when it gets close enough, right, you get some ambient occlusion. You get a contact shadow that looks great. It's dense where it needs to be. And thank you so much. Thank you to the dev team for implementing this. I use this for everything. I mean, again, depending on like the object that I need a contact shadow for, I'll just make a custom shape or 3D text or whatever it is. But this to me was a good shape. Went ahead and cleaned that all up, negative, brightened it up slightly, and then blurred it a bit. Brought that into action here and set it to subtract with a little transparency. And then what you get is a contact shadow that, you know, changes density based on what's going on in the background. It's darker when it overlaps with a shadow from the trees and so on. And it just feels more realistic than making an oval and blurring it.
The audience loves it. Not only the studio audience, but the YouTube audience as well.
Perfect. That's who we're here for, my friends. Is you at home. The other things we did were I had the prop guys also shoot me a straps pass. This is one of those things is that you only get, you know, as a flame artist, you ask for these things, but just to take the straps. And I didn't want to do this live because I didn't know where the shot was going to be used. This is like almost goes back to the whole thing with the that Sean had asked about the car moving. Is I didn't know if any moment that I was going to use with this kid was going to be when the chair was moving or the chair was stopped. So I figured let's just get these straps as a separate piece. So paint, roto, key, whatever you need to do to get a clean element, and then there we go. So now we've got some straps that are fluttering in the wind. And then the final thing was I wanted her to have some dappled light because these were all tree-lined streets and you can see there are shadows everywhere. Same thing. We were fully prepared on set to have like a cutout, you know, a cutout little rig and shine it through a light and create some moving shadows on her. But this was a kid. Kids are unpredictable. And what if the perfect moment for when she was in the clear or the shadows weren't moving or whatever, there were moving shadows. The take would be lost. So went ahead and found this wonderful image of a tree and used it and could have given a darn about the tree. I just used its mat and then animated the mat going up like this and blurred that like you do. And then brought that into action and projected it onto the mat of her. So I had some moving shadows, and I wanted something that wasn't this flat. And so I ended up just taking that same mat rather of the kid and displacing it. So you can see when I turn the displacement up, what it gave me was two things. It gave like a temporal disconnect between like the shadows that would be here on this face and the shadows that would be on the back. And so you could almost, if you really thought about it, almost say that like, okay, the light is traveling up this part and then it's going across the seat and then it's going up the back. It was all I needed to fake it, you know. I took that, blurred it slightly, and then used that to drive a color correction on her. What you end up with, and it's just a color correcting gain here, but what you end up with is some moving dappled light.
It looks
And
fantastic.
oh, thank you. Thank you. And when you put that together, you know, you get something that works.
Yeah, it sure does.
Let
It's
me
a
go
great
ahead
looking shot.
and play you the render one more time. There you go.
Yeah, great shadows. Everything's great about that.
Yeah, it's fun. It worked. And I remember trying this. Like, you know, it was everything from we took footage that we shot of the neighborhood from our location scout, and just here's, you know, some more action photos. I had taken a GoPro and strapped it to like the front of my rental car, and we drove through the neighborhood, and that's how we kind of scouted the neighborhood. But we also used that for the on-set preview so that, you know, our friends in Video Village could see what it was going to be like, and it worked. You know, like everyone was relaxed. Like then they were able to focus on what they needed to focus on, which was getting the performance that we wanted out of her. And yeah, this is a great kid. We had a lot of fun, and we got everything we needed throughout the day, and even a hug goodbye, which is great. So because we gave her a toy too as a thank you. But a couple other things that happened over the course of the spot that were great. Oh, we had a backup baby, just in case our hero kid either wasn't going to cooperate, got sick, or whatever. We had a backup baby. These are the feet of the backup baby. So that kid did get paid her day rate, from what I understand, and also got the same dappled light treatment. So everyone was treated equally. What you can't see in this, and I really wish I had the footage of it, it was hysterical, is myself and this kid's mom moved the feet. So we puppeteered her feet. We both were holding her heels and just kind of moving them up and down slowly, because if we tried to get the kid to kick, she would just kick violently, you know, and I wanted something that was a little slower. So these are puppeted feet. I don't remember who had which foot, but you know, you do what you got to do. Yes. Oh, another thing that happened. So we scouted this location. This was 2 blocks in LA, and we picked an intersection. It was perfect because it had, in fact, I think it's back here. Okay, because you can kind of see a stop sign through there. But it had a stop sign. It had stop written on the ground. It had the white line and everything. And then that's where we were going to shoot. That was on a Friday. We did our scout, and then like on Monday we go to shoot. And the people who owned the house right across the street from this had started cutting down all their trees. So they were just like, it looked like a disaster movie. They were just like bare trunks of trees with like just debris everywhere. So that was out of the question. And then we had to go and use a different intersection, which did not have a stop sign and which did not have stop written on the ground. So those are all added in post. You know, again, you're the flame artist, you're the VFX supervisor, you're the director. You just go, well, there's plenty of stuff to track. You know, we'll figure it out. It's fine.
Yeah.
And
I can't imagine how you all felt that day when you got there and it was just different and terrible. Ugh.
Well, anybody in the chat, I think Sean has directed stuff, like you just want to throw up. Like you just feel like everything's a disaster, but then you kind of stop and look at it from a flame artist perspective and go like, okay, what can I fix? And that's what we did.
Yeah, because I think traditionally the directors would have to trust the VFX person when they say that it'll be all right and hope that they're not just saying that to make you feel better.
Or not care. You know, just say that they'll fix it in post and move on, you know, and you find out after that it was shot, what you never bid on that you now have to do.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there are plenty of people, if I could see everybody nodding, they would go, yes, that's happened to me. But I know we're running short on time. So
a little bit. I guess we're
if
right on
anybody has
time.
any questions.
Sean was just curious about if you filmed the baby first or the plates first, and if you think that mattered, that order mattered.
we did the plates first. And that was because of the truck. So we shot for 2 days. The first day we did the singing dog spot, and for that one we had a camera truck. So while at base camp they went and put that Honda Accord on the trailer and got that all built, we went out with the production truck and shot the plates for the street for the Flying Baby. That's what drove that.
That makes sense. And Charles Quinn says, at least it wasn't a green car and a green screen at 2 a.m.
That's
a little
true.
too specific.
That's well. Oh man, I don't know. If you know, you know. It's a famous photo of mine that I have on my phone, but I don't have access to here. Of just like these things happen. Sometimes you walk on set and there's a green car and a green screen, and what can you do? So,
what can you do? We have another question just came in just now. Were you limited on how many hours you could use the baby for? Like, did you have a short number of time? Yeah.
That was another reason why we had a backup kid, just in case.
Wow.
And we figured for, anything where you didn't see the kid's face or whatever, we would have, but we did have a very limited window of time. And that's why we kind of figured out that let's get everything we need in front of that green screen. If I remember correctly, it was, let's get everything we need in front of that green screen for the performances in the chair. And then the kids on break back in the trailer. And then we broke everything down and brought out the cart so we could wheel the kid in front of, for the end of the spot. If you bring up the flame again, Jeff, I'll show you.
Oh, there it is.
So all this stuff was the beginning of our day. And then this was all in the parking lot of the CVS. And then this here was the second half of our day. Again, you can see the same shadows were creeping in from the dog spot the day before. And this was really just wheeling the kid up. This is wheeling the kid on the cart and a clean plate, and you just roto the chair in the shadow. And hand animate the straps too. We hand animated these straps. I do remember that.
Nice.
So that's how we accommodated the time requirements that we had for shooting with a young kid.
Awesome. Well, this was great. Thank you so much for sharing. I think that was all the questions, and that was all the time. Perfectly timed, by the way. So thanks a bunch. Yeah. If anyone has any more questions, if anyone thinks of anything else, Andy will be there on the Zoom chat with patrons to chat about anything else that's going on. But otherwise, thanks a bunch, Andy, for showing.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for doing this, Jeff. Thanks to you and Amanda for all the hosting that you've been doing, and of course, thanks to everybody in the community. It's been awesome just to see how far Logic has come in the last couple of years.
Agreed. And you have the blessing of Fred Warren, who says that this was very cool. What more can you ask?
Noted.
So
just a mother's love.
It's just a mother's love. Well, thanks, Andy. I'm going to head on over to some giveaway time. Let me press that button. Giveaway.
I'll see you over in Zoom.
See you in Zoom. It's prize time, everyone. I have a list of people who have signed up, and we are going to be giving away 3 things today. 2 new merch, and then 1 subscription of Boris FX Optics. So let's spin the wheel and see who's winning what. First one is for Logic Notebook, AirPod Pro case, or phone case, and it is Tim Farrell. Hello, Tim. Congratulations. You're winning some new merch. Tim Farrell. Number 2 winner. Who's it going to be? Chatty Abo. Congratulations, Chatty. You've won a Logic Notebook or AirPods or phone case. And the final winner of the day, for 1 year of Boris FX Optics, it's going to none other than Rex Carter. Congratulations, Rex. Excelente. We did it. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to head on over to the closing slideshow to do a couple more messages from our sponsors and upcoming events. Oops. coming up on Logic Live. We're going to take a little potential break for NAB since that's coming up in just over 2 weeks from now, but our next scheduled programming is an interview with co-founder of Looper.io, Alex Williams, hosted by none other than Andy Milkis himself, on Sunday, April 23rd at 2 p.m., where they'll be talking about the streaming service and what it might be able to do for you. If you haven't already signed up with the forum, please head on over and do so at forum.logic.tv. Daily conversations, question answering, and just general great stuff related to Flame. While you're there, why don't you also sign up and head on over to the Logic Discord, where we're having some of the more informal chats and hangouts. This episode of Logic Live will be available with all the others on the website later on today. We have a new episode of the Logic Podcast. Amanda Elliott had a wonderful chat with junior artist Ardell Materianpour. Great content right there. Always nice to have different perspectives on all things Flame. We have reached 1,700 subscribers on YouTube, specifically 1.77 thousand. Just keeps growing. That's the goal. If you haven't already, though, please hit that subscribe button because it helps. It does help. If you'd like to support what we're doing here on Logic, please become a patron by signing up at patreon.com/LogicTV. Congratulations to the proud new owners of some merch. Be sure to check out the Logic merch store to pick up your own Logic merch, especially our notebooks, AirPod case, and phone cases. Big thank you to Boris Effects for sponsoring Logic Live, and if you'd like to save 15% on everything they make, you can use the code LOGIC-2023 at checkout. Thank you to AJA for also sponsoring Logic Live. They've been together with Flame since 2006. And a final thank you to Hot Spring. They are the future of VFX outsourcing, connecting you to other artists from around the world to help you get your projects done. You can find them at thehotspring.com. And that brings us to the end of the show. Theme song. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Andy, for being here and going over those cool shots. Andy is going to join us over on Zoom to take part in the patrons Q&A, to dig a little deeper into the setups and answer any all questions you might have for him about how he made the magic happen. I'll see you patrons over there, but for now, thanks again for being here, everyone. I appreciate you all. We'll see you here next time on Logic Live.